The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The air carried a slight chill, but it wasn't enough to dampen Mia Thompson's spirits. Today was a big day, a day she had been preparing for weeks. After countless applications, rejections, and sleepless nights spent polishing her resume, she finally had an interview at Innovatech Solutions, one of the most sought-after tech companies in the city. This could be her ticket to a better future. Maya lived in a small apartment on the outskirts of town, far from the gleaming skyscrapers where opportunities seemed endless. She didn't come from money. Her family struggled to make ends meet, and her college education was funded by scholarships and part-time jobs. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was showing up today, on time, confident, and ready to prove herself. Her alarm clock buzzed at 5:30 a.m., much earlier than usual. Mia groaned as she rolled out of bed, her mind already racing with thoughts of the day ahead. She stood in front of her closet, carefully selecting her outfit, a navy blue blazer paired with black slacks and a crisp white shirt. It was simple but professional, the best she could afford. She even took extra care ironing out every wrinkle, wanting to look polished despite the circumstances. Then came the tricky part, transportation. Mia's old car had broken down months ago, and fixing it was out of the question. It would cost more than she earned in a month. Public transport was unreliable, often delayed or overcrowded. So she turned to her trusty bicycle, a hand-me-down from her older brother. It wasn't glamorous, but it got her where she needed to go. She wheeled the bike outside, double-checking the tires and adjusting the seat height. Her heart raced not just from excitement, but also from nerves. Would they take her seriously? Would they see past her humble beginnings and recognize her potential? Shaking off the doubts, she strapped her bag securely onto the handlebars and set off into the quiet streets. The ride wasn't easy. The morning breeze stung her cheeks, and the uphill stretches made her legs burn. But Mia didn't let that stop her. Every pedal stroke brought her closer to her goal, fueling her determination. She passed rows of houses still cloaked in darkness, their windows reflecting the first light of dawn. As she entered the busier parts of the city, the streets filled with honking cars, bustling pedestrians, and the hum of life waking up. At one point, she stopped at a red light near a busy intersection. Beside her sat a gleaming luxury sedan, its polished surface catching the sunlight. Inside, she noticed a man dressed sharply in a suit, his face partially hidden behind dark sunglasses. For a brief moment, their eyes met through the car window. Mia quickly looked away, feeling self-conscious about her sweat-dampened forehead and wind-tousled hair. Little did she know, this fleeting glance would mark the beginning of something extraordinary. Despite the challenges of the ride, the sore muscles, the chilly air, and the occasional curious stares, Mia pressed on. With each turn of the pedals, she reminded herself why she was doing this. This wasn't just about landing a job. It was about proving to herself that no obstacle was too great if she stayed focused and resilient. And as she neared Innovatech's towering glass building, she couldn't help but smile. Against all odds, she had made it. The traffic light turned red, and Mia came to a halt at the busy intersection. Her breath was steady now after the long ride, though her hands gripped the handlebars tightly, partly from habit and partly from nervous energy. She glanced around, taking in the chaos of the city waking up. Honking cars, hurried pedestrians, and the occasional cyclist, like herself, weaving through the crowd. It was then that she noticed the sleek black luxury sedan idling beside her. The car was impossible to miss. Its shiny surface gleamed under the morning sun, reflecting the vibrant colors of the rising day. The windows were tinted, giving it an air of mystery, but Mia could still make out the silhouette of the driver inside. He sat upright, his posture relaxed yet commanding. His suit looked expensive, tailored to perfection, and his polished leather shoes rested casually on the pedals. For a moment, Mia felt out of place, perched on her old bicycle with her modest attire and wind-tousled hair. As if sensing her gaze, the man glanced up from his phone. Their eyes met briefly through the car window, and Mia quickly looked away, feeling a flush creep into her cheeks. She wasn't sure why, but there was something about him that caught her attention. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, calm, confident, almost magnetic, or maybe it was the faint smile that played on his lips before he returned his focus to his phone. Whatever it was, it left an impression. Inside the car, Ethan Carter lowered his phone and leaned back against the seat. He had been scrolling through emails, mentally preparing for the day ahead, when something outside caught his eye. A young woman on a bicycle had stopped beside him, her face lit by the golden glow of the sunrise. There was something striking about her determination, perhaps, or the quiet strength in her expression. She didn't look like the typical commuters rushing to work. Instead, she seemed grounded, real, and refreshingly unpretentious. Ethan found himself glancing at her again, this time more deliberately. She wore a neatly pressed blazer over a crisp white shirt, paired with black slacks. Her outfit might not have been designer, but it was clear she had put thought into how she presented herself. Her hair, slightly tousled from the ride, framed her face in soft waves, and her eyes held a spark of determination that intrigued him. He wondered where she was headed and what drove her to choose such an unconventional mode of transport in a city dominated by cars and buses. The light turned green, snapping Ethan out of his thoughts. Drivers honked impatiently as vehicles began moving forward. But even as Ethan eased his car into motion, he couldn't shake the image of the young woman on the bike. Something about her lingered in his mind, a sense of authenticity, resilience, and quiet confidence that stood out amidst the sea of people around him. He glanced at his rearview mirror, catching one last glimpse of her as she resumed pedaling. She rode with purpose, her movements steady and deliberate. Ethan felt an inexplicable pull toward her, a curiosity that went beyond mere admiration. Who was she? Where was she going? Why did she seem so different from everyone else? Little did Ethan know, their paths were about to cross again sooner than he expected. Fate works in mysterious ways, often bringing people together in moments they least anticipate. And while neither Mia nor Ethan realized it yet, that brief encounter at the intersection would set off a chain of events neither could have predicted. For now, though, life moved on. The cars sped past, the pedestrians hurried along, and Mia continued her journey toward Innovatech Solutions, unaware that someone had already taken notice of her in ways she couldn't imagine. Months passed, and Mia and Ethan's relationship continued to grow, quietly flourishing amidst the demands of their professional lives. They learned to navigate the delicate balance between work and love, finding ways to support each other without compromising their integrity or the company's values. While the rumors around the office persisted, neither of them let it overshadow the joy they found in one another. Their bond became a source of strength, inspiring them to push boundaries both personally and professionally. Under Mia's influence, Ethan began championing initiatives that reflected her passion for innovation and inclusivity. Together, they spearheaded projects aimed at empowering underrepresented communities within the tech industry, launching mentorship programs and partnerships with local schools. Mia's ideas brought fresh energy to the company, while Ethan's leadership ensured those ideas reached their full potential. The synergy between them was undeniable, and Innovatech flourished as a result. Their teamwork didn't go unnoticed. Employees admired how Ethan trusted Mia's judgment, often deferring to her expertise during critical decisions. Far from being jealous, many colleagues respected her even more, recognizing that her rise wasn't due to favoritism, but sheer talent and hard work. Slowly, the whispers faded, replaced by admiration for the dynamic duo transforming the company from the inside out. Outside of work, Mia and Ethan carved out moments to nurture their relationship. Weekends were spent exploring the city, visiting art galleries, trying new restaurants, or simply taking long walks where they could talk freely without worrying about prying eyes. These small escapes allowed them to reconnect, reminding them why they had fallen for each other in the first place. Ethan marveled at Mia's ability to find beauty in simplicity, while Mia cherished Ethan's vulnerability. the side he rarely showed anyone else. One evening, after a particularly successful product launch, Ethan surprised Mia with dinner on the rooftop of his penthouse apartment. The city skyline stretched endlessly before them, twinkling like stars against the night sky. As they sipped wine and reflected on everything they had achieved together, Ethan turned to her, his expression serious yet tender. "Mia," he said, setting down his glass, "you've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. Before you, I was so focused on building this company that I forgot what truly mattered. Connection, purpose, love. You reminded me of all that." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she listened, moved by his words. "Ethan, you've done the same for me. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You've given me opportunities I never dreamed of." He took her hand in his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I don't want to imagine my life without you anymore. Whatever challenges come our way, I know we can face them together. So, will you stay by my side? Not just as my partner in work, but in life." Mia's heart swelled, and she nodded, her smile radiant. Always. In that moment, surrounded by the city they loved and the dreams they shared, they solidified their commitment to one another, not just as CEO and employee, but as equals, partners, and soulmates. As time went on, their story became legendary within Innovatech. It wasn't just about a CEO falling for an ambitious young woman. It was about two people who defied expectations, proving that love and success could coexist. Their journey inspired others to pursue their passions fearlessly, to break barriers, and to trust in the power of connection. And so, Mia and Ethan's legacy extended beyond the boardroom. Together, they built not only a thriving company, but also a future rooted in love, respect, and endless possibilities. From the moment Mia rode her bike past Ethan's luxury car, fate had woven its threads carefully, bringing them together in a story neither could have predicted, but one that would forever change their lives. The days following their dinner at the cafe were filled with a quiet tension. Both Mia and Ethan found themselves replaying the evening in their minds, wondering what might have happened if they hadn't been interrupted. At work, they maintained their professionalism, but there was an undeniable shift in the air whenever they interacted. Smiles lingered a little longer, glances held a fraction more meaning, and conversations carried an undercurrent of something unspoken. One evening, after another long day at the office, Ethan approached Mia as she packed up her things to leave. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, his tone softer than usual. Mia paused, looking up at him curiously. "Sure. What's on your mind?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, then gestured toward the empty conference room nearby. "Let's talk in private." Her heart skipped a beat, but she followed him without hesitation. Once inside, Ethan closed the door gently behind them, creating a cocoon of quiet away from the bustling office. He turned to face her, his expression serious yet gentle. "Mia," he began, running a hand through his hair, a rare sign of nervousness. "I need to be honest with you. Ever since we met, I felt drawn to you. Not just because of your talent or dedication, though those are undeniable. It's something deeper, something I can't ignore anymore." Mia's breath caught in her throat. She had wondered if he felt the same pull she did, but hearing him say it aloud left her momentarily speechless. "Ethan," she started, unsure how to respond. "I know this is complicated," he continued quickly, sensing her hesitation. "You work here, and I'm your boss. Mixing personal and professional lives is risky. But I also believe that sometimes life gives us chances to connect with people who truly matter, and I don't want to let that slip away." His words resonated deeply with Mia. She had spent weeks trying to suppress her feelings, reminding herself of the boundaries between them. Yet, standing there now, she realized how much she valued the bond they shared. It wasn't just attraction, it was respect, trust, and a sense of being seen for who she truly was. "I feel it too," she admitted finally, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "But I'm scared. What if this affects my career? Or worse, what if it doesn't work out and everything becomes awkward? Ethan nodded, understanding her concerns. Those are valid fears, and I won't pretend I have all the answers. But I do know one thing. I care about you, Mia, and I think we owe it to ourselves to explore this, even if it means taking things slowly. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes, not out of sadness, but from the weight of his sincerity. For so long, she had doubted whether anyone could see past her humble beginnings and appreciate her for who she was. But Ethan did. He saw her strength, her passion, and her vulnerability, and he embraced all of it. "I'm willing to try," she said softly, a small smile breaking through. "But we'll have to be careful. If anyone finds out." "I understand," Ethan replied, his relief evident. "We'll take it step by step. No rushing, no pressure. Just us." They decided to keep their growing relationship discreet for the time being, agreeing to navigate the challenges together. Over the next few weeks, they stole moments whenever they could. Quiet lunches in tucked-away cafes, late-night strategy sessions that doubled as heartfelt conversations, and stolen glances across crowded rooms. Each interaction brought them closer, deepening their connection while testing the limits of their self-control. However, whispers soon began to circulate around the office. Colleagues noticed how often Ethan sought Mia's input during meetings, or how frequently they seemed to cross paths in the hallways. Rumors spread, some harmless, others less so. One coworker even joked about favoritism, though Mia brushed it off with a laugh, determined not to let gossip affect her focus. Despite the challenges, Mia and Ethan remained committed to balancing their roles at work with their budding romance. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but neither was willing to give up on what they had found in each other. Love, they realized, wasn't about avoiding obstacles. It was about facing them together, hand in hand. Mia finally reached the towering glass building of Innovatech Solutions, her heart racing not just from the ride, but also from anticipation. She locked her bike to a nearby rack, double-checking that it was secure before adjusting her blazer and smoothing out any wrinkles. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside the sleek lobby, where the air smelled faintly of polished marble and fresh coffee. The atmosphere buzzed with energy. Employees chatting near the elevators, visitors signing in at the reception desk, and the soft hum of productivity filling the space. She approached the front desk nervously, introducing herself to the receptionist. "Hi, I'm Maya Thompson. I have an interview scheduled for 9 a.m. Her voice wavered slightly, betraying her nerves, but the receptionist smiled warmly and assured her everything would go smoothly. After checking her name on the list, the receptionist handed her a visitor badge and directed her to wait in the conference room down the hall. As Mia walked toward the designated area, she couldn't help but feel out of place. Most of the other candidates waiting were dressed in designer suits and expensive shoes, exuding confidence and polish. One woman sat typing furiously on her laptop, while another flipped through documents with practiced ease. Meanwhile, Mia clutched her folder tightly, reminding herself that she belonged here just as much as anyone else. She had worked hard for this opportunity, and no amount of self-doubt would stop her from giving it her all. When her name was called, Maya stood up quickly, smoothing her hair one last time before entering the conference room. Inside, 3 interviewers sat around a large table, their expressions neutral but professional. They introduced themselves. One was from HR, another from the marketing team, and the third was a senior project manager. As they began asking questions, Mia focused on staying calm and composed, channeling her nervous energy into thoughtful answers. The interview started with standard questions about her background and experience. Mia spoke clearly, highlighting her academic achievements, internships, and passion for innovation. But when the conversation shifted to problem-solving scenarios and creative thinking, Mia truly shone. She shared ideas she'd been brainstorming for months, ways to improve customer engagement using technology, strategies to streamline processes, and even suggestions for sustainability initiatives within the company. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and she could see the interviewers leaning forward slightly, listening intently. Unbeknownst to Mia, Ethan Carter had returned to the office earlier than planned after his drive that morning. He often liked to walk through the halls during interviews, getting a sense of potential hires who might bring fresh perspectives to the company. As he passed the conference room, he paused outside the door, drawn by the sound of a familiar voice. Peering discreetly through the glass panel, he saw Mia sitting confidently across from the panel, her hands gesturing animatedly as she explained her ideas. Ethan's curiosity deepened. He recognized her immediately, the young woman on the bicycle from earlier that morning. Now, seeing her in action, he was struck by how effortlessly she commanded the room. Her insights were sharp, her tone confident yet humble, and her passion undeniable. It wasn't just her intelligence that impressed him. It was the way she carried herself, with authenticity and purpose. After lingering a moment longer, Ethan stepped away, making a mental note to learn more about her. He approached the HR representative later, casually mentioning the candidate he'd overheard. "The young woman in the blue blazer," he said. "What can you tell me about her?" The HR rep smiled knowingly. "That's Mia Thompson. She's impressive, isn't she? We've received great feedback so far." Ethan nodded, intrigued. Something about Mia resonated with him. Not just her talent or determination, but the quiet strength she radiated. He found himself wondering what else lay beneath the surface, what drove her to push forward despite challenges, and how someone like her ended up riding a bicycle to an interview instead of arriving in a chauffeur-driven car. Meanwhile, back in the conference room, Mia wrapped up her final answer with a smile, feeling a renewed sense of hope. Despite the intimidating environment and stiff competition, she knew she had given her best effort. Whether or not she got the job, she left the room proud of how far she'd come and grateful for the chance to prove herself. Little did she know, her journey at Innovatech was only beginning, and the man who had noticed her twice already was about to play a bigger role in her life than she could ever imagine. Over the following weeks, Mia settled into her role at Innovatech Solutions with impressive speed. Her colleagues quickly warmed up to her, charmed by her friendly demeanor and sharp insights. She became a vital part of the team, contributing fresh ideas that sparked excitement during brainstorming sessions. Ethan noticed how seamlessly she fit in, not just as an employee, but as someone who brought energy and creativity to every project she touched. Their paths continued to cross frequently, sometimes in formal settings like meetings or presentations, other times in casual moments around the office. One afternoon, Ethan found Mia working late in the communal workspace, surrounded by papers and sticky notes detailing her strategies for the high-profile initiative he'd assigned her. He paused, watching quietly from the doorway as she scribbled furiously, completely absorbed in her work. There was something endearing about her focus, the way she bit her lip when deep in thought or tapped her pen against the table when inspiration struck. "You're still here?" Ethan asked, stepping into the room. His voice startled her, and she looked up, surprised to see him. "Oh, yeah, I wanted to finish organizing these thoughts before tomorrow's meeting," Mia replied, gesturing to the clutter on the desk. "Guess I lost track of time." Ethan chuckled softly. "You remind me of myself when I first started, always pushing to get things perfect." "Well, perfection is hard to achieve," Mia said with a small laugh, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "But I figure it's worth aiming for." Her response intrigued him. Most people would have dismissed his comment with a polite nod, but Mia engaged, revealing glimpses of her personality each time they spoke. It wasn't just her talent that fascinated Ethan, it was her authenticity. She didn't try to impress him. Instead, she stayed true to herself, even when speaking to the CEO. As their interactions grew more frequent, so did the subtle signs of mutual attraction. Ethan often lingered a little longer than necessary during conversations, finding excuses to check in on Mia's progress or offer advice. For her part, Mia couldn't deny the flutter in her chest whenever Ethan entered a room or directed one of his rare smiles her way. Still, both were careful to keep things professional, aware of the potential complications that could arise if lines were crossed. One Friday evening, after a particularly grueling week, Ethan suggested they grab dinner together. Just to debrief on the campaign, he added quickly, perhaps sensing her hesitation. Nothing formal. There's a cafe nearby. Mia hesitated for only a moment before agreeing. They walked to the cafe side by side, chatting casually about everything from workplace dynamics to their shared love of coffee. Away from the office environment, Ethan seemed different, less guarded, more human. He opened up about the pressures of running a company and the loneliness that sometimes came with leadership. In turn, Mia shared stories about her struggles growing up and how those experiences shaped her resilience. By the end of the meal, the conversation had shifted from work-related topics to personal ones. They laughed over silly anecdotes, discovered shared interests, and realized how much they enjoyed each other's company outside the confines of Innovatech. As they strolled back to the office afterward, the air between them felt lighter, charged with unspoken possibilities. Back at the office building, Ethan stopped near the entrance, turning to face Mia. "I'm glad we did this," he admitted. "It's nice to talk to someone who understands what it's like to chase big dreams." "Me too," Maya replied, meeting his gaze. "Thanks for trusting me enough to share your thoughts. Not many people get to see this side of you." For a moment, neither of them moved. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them standing under the soft glow of the streetlights. Ethan took a step closer, his expression softening. "Mia, Before he could finish, reality intervened. A group of employees exited the building, laughing loudly as they headed home for the weekend. The spell broke, and Ethan stepped back, clearing his throat. "We should probably head inside," he said, though his tone carried a hint of regret. Mia nodded, her heart racing. "Yeah, it's getting late." They parted ways that night, but the tension between them remained unresolved. Both knew their connection went beyond professional respect, yet neither was ready to act on it. The boundaries of their roles weighed heavily, reminding them of the risks involved. Still, the foundation of trust and understanding they were building made one thing clear. Whatever happened next, it wouldn't be ordinary. Their story was far from over. A week had passed since Mia's interview at Innovatech Solutions, and she was beginning to think the opportunity had slipped through her fingers. She checked her email obsessively, refreshing her inbox every few hours, but there was no word from the company. Doubts crept in. Had she said the wrong thing? Was her idea too bold? Or did they simply choose someone else? One evening, as Mia sat on her small apartment couch, scrolling through job listings, her phone buzzed with a notification. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the subject line. Offer letter, Innovatech Solutions. Trembling slightly, she opened the email and read it carefully. It was official. They wanted her. The letter outlined her role, salary, and start date, along with a warm welcome message from HR. Tears welled up in her eyes as relief and joy washed over her. All her hard work had paid off. Mia accepted the offer immediately, typing out her response with shaking hands. For the rest of the night, she couldn't stop smiling. This was more than just a job. It was validation of her efforts, proof that she could hold her own in a competitive world. As she prepared for her first day, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Would she fit in? Could she live up to their expectations? On her first day, Mia arrived early, determined to make a good impression. Dressed in her best professional attire, she walked into the building with her head held high. The lobby looked even grander now that she wasn't an outsider looking in. It felt like stepping into a new chapter of her life. After checking in with reception, she was escorted to the orientation room, where other new hires were gathered. During the introductions, Maya learned more about the company structure and key figures within Innovatech. When the presenter mentioned Ethan Carter, she felt a jolt of recognition. Of course, he was the CEO. She already knew his name, but hearing it again reminded her of their unexpected encounter in the lobby. A part of her wondered if he even remembered her. After all, CEOs likely met dozens of people every day. Her question was answered sooner than expected. Later that afternoon, Mia attended her first team meeting. As she settled into her seat, glancing around the conference table, she noticed a familiar figure entering the room. Ethan Carter strode in confidently, exchanging greetings with the team members before taking his place at the head of the table. His eyes scanned the group briefly, and when they landed on Mia, he paused for a fraction of a second, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. After the meeting wrapped up, Ethan approached her casually, as if reconnecting with an old acquaintance. "Mia, right?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "Yes," she replied, standing up straighter. "It's nice to see you again, Ethan." "I'm glad you're here," he said warmly. "We're lucky to have someone with your talent joining the team." Mia felt a blush creep onto her cheeks. "Thank you. I'm excited to be part of Innovatech." Over the next few weeks, Ethan made subtle efforts to include Mia in important discussions and projects. He assigned her to a high-profile initiative aimed at developing innovative solutions for client engagement. At first, Mia assumed it was standard procedure, but she soon realized that Ethan seemed particularly invested in her growth. He offered guidance without being overbearing, encouraging her to share her ideas freely during brainstorming sessions. Their interactions remained professional, yet there was an undeniable ease between them. Whether it was a quick chat in the hallway or a thoughtful comment during meetings, Ethan always found ways to acknowledge Mia's contributions. And while she appreciated his support, she couldn't ignore the growing sense of admiration she felt toward him. He was brilliant, driven, and surprisingly approachable despite his position. Still, Mia reminded herself to stay focused. She was here to build her career, not get distracted by feelings for her boss. But the more time they spent together, the harder it became to suppress those emotions. Ethan, too, found himself thinking about Mia more often than he cared to admit. There was something magnetic about her, a blend of intelligence, humility, and quiet strength that captivated him. One evening after a long day of work, Ethan invited Mia to join him for coffee in the office cafe. "You've been doing great work," he said as they sat down. "I wanted to hear how you're settling in." Mia smiled, touched by his thoughtfulness. "I'm really enjoying it. Everyone has been so supportive." "That's good to hear," Ethan replied, his gaze softening. "But if you ever need anything, or if something feels overwhelming, don't hesitate to reach out. I mean it." His words carried weight, not because of his title, but because of the sincerity behind them. For the first time, after the interview, Maya stepped out of the conference room feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. She had done her best, answering every question honestly and sharing her ideas with confidence. Still, she couldn't shake the nagging thought that maybe it wasn't enough. The other candidates seemed so polished, so sure of themselves. As she walked back to the lobby, she adjusted her blazer one last time, trying to steady her nerves. The lobby was quieter now, most of the morning rush having dissipated. Employees bustled about, some heading to meetings while others grabbed coffee from the sleek cafe counter in the corner. Maya stood near the reception desk, waiting for the security guard to return her visitor badge. She glanced at her watch, wondering if she should leave soon or wait a little longer to compose herself. That's when she saw him. Ethan Carter strode into the lobby, his presence commanding attention without effort. He wore the same suit she'd noticed earlier in the car, and his polished shoes clicked softly against the marble floor. His eyes scanned the room briefly before landing on her. For a moment, Mia froze, unsure if he was looking at her or someone else. But then he smiled, a warm, genuine smile, and began walking toward her. "Mia Thompson?" he asked as he approached, his tone polite but curious. She nodded, surprised. "Yes, that's me. How did you know my name?" "I overheard part of your interview," Ethan admitted. "Your insights were impressive. I wanted to introduce myself." Mia blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, thank you. That means a lot." She extended her hand hesitantly, and Ethan shook it firmly, his grip steady and reassuring. "I'm Ethan Carter," he continued, watching her closely. "I run this place." For a split second, Mia's mind went blank. This was the CEO, the man who had been sitting in the luxury sedan earlier that morning. Her cheeks flushed as she processed the information. "Wow, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Carter. Please call me Ethan," he said, his smile widening. "And don't worry, I didn't mean to interrupt your day. I just wanted to say that we're always excited to meet talented individuals like yourself." Mia felt a flutter of pride mixed with disbelief. Was he serious? Or was this just something CEOs said to make candidates feel better? Either way, she appreciated the gesture. "Thank you, Ethan. That's really kind of you." They stood there for a moment, exchanging small talk. Ethan asked about her background, and Mia shared a little about her studies and aspirations. She kept her answers concise, not wanting to overstay her welcome. Despite his title, Ethan came across as approachable and down-to-earth, putting her at ease. There was an ease to their conversation, a natural flow that made Mia forget, for a moment, how different their worlds seemed. As they talked, Ethan found himself even more intrigued by her. Up close, she was exactly as he'd imagined. Intelligent, articulate, and refreshingly humble. He admired how she carried herself, balancing confidence with grace. Most people would have been intimidated meeting the CEO unexpectedly, but Mia handled the situation with poise. Eventually, Ethan glanced at his watch. "I should let you get going. You've probably got places to be, but I'll make sure HR follows up with you soon." Mia nodded gratefully. "Thank you again for taking the time to speak with me. It was unexpected, but I appreciate it." "It was my pleasure," Ethan replied, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. "Take care, Mia." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Mia standing there, slightly dazed. What had just happened? Had the CEO of Innovatech Solutions really taken the time to personally compliment her after her interview? And why did she feel a strange warmth spreading through her chest whenever she thought about their brief encounter? As she exited the building and retrieved her bike, Mia couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. Sure, he was successful, powerful, and undeniably charming, but there was something else about him that drew her in. Maybe it was the sincerity in his voice, or the way he seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say. Whatever it was, she couldn't deny the connection she'd felt during their conversation. Little did Mia know, Ethan was equally affected by their meeting. Back in his office, he stared out the window, lost in thought. Something about Mia stayed with him long after their paths crossed. Her resilience, her authenticity, and the quiet determination that radiated from her. He knew she was special, and he couldn't wait to see where her journey at Innovatech might lead. Neither of them realized it yet, but fate had already begun weaving its threads, pulling them closer together in ways neither could have anticipated.